So we are streaming chapter 2 of Epistory, which is a typing/word game, which is based on the word epistolary, which is a love letter to words, basically, exploring the magic and the power and the way that words resonate within us. It's a beautiful game. I'll start it up in a minute. But what I was going through here on my screen is all the different achievements that are available for Epistory. And, you have like the typical ones like kill 100 enemies, fire fell from the sky, which is a story point in Epistory, which I'll get to in a minute. But we also have things like 1% Muse, the Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, which is type 39 words, which is 1% of the Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. And then 1% Muse Hamlet, which is type 300 words, which is 1% of Hamlet by Shakespeare. And I think that this is such a wonderful nod to the atmosphere of the game, just bringing in a little bit of the STEAM community and the achievements that you can get, and really continuing to wrap it around that atmosphere of words and letters and books and really enveloping us in that atmosphere. I was also saying that 1% Muse Gargantua down here, I just noticed. And this is type 531 words, which is 1% of Gargantua by Francois Rabelais. And Gargantua and Pantagruel, which I think is the actual title, the full title, was one of my favorite stories in college for my English major. So I really, and it's one of the least known stories of classic literature that people read today. So I think that that's a nice little nod to us English majors in the bunch. So I just think that this is a really nice additional step that the game has taken to immerse us in this world. So I'm going to head over to the game now. Oh, I need to bring it up. Hold on one second. I thought I had. Okay. And here we go. Is that yeah, it's a thing on my screen. So it takes a minute to load up. So where we left off in the story is, let me make sure the audio is okay for this. As we start up, we're looking, well, we're not hearing anything yet, so we seem to be fine. Okay, so where we left off with the story is we are a young girl. I'm going to call her Hera for heroine because we don't have a name for her. She's riding a giant red fox with 3 tails, who I'm going to call Vixie for Vixen, who is a female fox. And we started out in the forest of her youth. And there's all this beautiful language surrounding like that she had been sheltered by the forest, that the forest was her safe space, that she felt protected by the forest and felt an affinity with the forest. It was really beautiful and really lovely. And I'd shared a few stories from my own childhood in the last stream, detailing my own experience with growing up with the woods in my backyard, which was a lot of fun and really magical. Why is this taking forever to load? And then a comet falls from the sky and hits a crater in the earth, and that releases a blackness onto the land. And Hera, our character, she went and did the brave thing and decided that if she wouldn't go and check it out, then who would? And we traveled down into the crater, into the pit, and we fought a lot of darkness and shadows and bugs and angry insects and crater creatures, which I started calling them last stream, that were coming out of the crater. Insects and bugs and spiders and things like that. Really, really kind of nasty things. So we navigated our way through that, all the while hearing the story of, our character, like getting her memories back and regaining what she had lost and starting to feel inspired again as she regained some of her memories. And we got a few memories of her and her father rescuing something, it sounded like maybe a baby bird or something, but the text was, if we don't save it, it'll die. So it was clearly an it, not a she or a he, not a human. And then we emerged, but we didn't really get answers for that yet. We just sort of glossed over it and got back into the normal world, which was the forest again. And now we had to clear the forest of all the creatures that... Why isn't this starting up? Sorry. Oh, because I hadn't clicked on it yet. Technical issues. Little glitches here and there. There we go. That's great. Is the audio? Yeah, the audio is fine. Okay. So then we went back into the forest, and we had to clear the forest of the creatures in the darkness that had now come out of the crater into the forest. And then we got this story as we were doing that of this girl and her friend, who seems like another girl, which is totally, fine. I'm not entirely clear though. We got a picture of the two of them in sort of a very close pose, like one leg draped over the other kind of thing, of them on a tree branch. And it looked like a very intimate pose. And there were some stories and sentences of one girl loving the other and saying, "Don't go, why aren't you answering me, I love you," things like that. So I'm really interested to see where that goes, if this is an actual character from her past, if this is a memory, if this is, maybe the muse of inspiration who is releasing her hold on Hera and is not letting her write her story, because that's sort of the underlying tone here. There was a point at which I died where it said one more for the scrap pile. So it seems like maybe we're actually writing a book or writing a manuscript, and each time that we die, we're crumpling up a bit of that paper, a bit of that draft, and throwing it away because it was no good. So I'm kind of wondering if we're actually going through the muse of inspiration, going through the writing process a little bit, because some things like really sort of seem to line up in that direction. So after we dealt with the crater and the creatures and everything, we discovered that there was a huge tsunami coming towards us and splashed over the land. And now that's the second chapter that we are currently about to embark on. And thanks, Krishani, for the perfect thumbs up for the audio things. That is very helpful. I appreciate it. So now we are continuing our journey. I'll hit continue here and take a sip of water, because that was a lot of talking. Long intro. Here we go. And this is really just a beautiful story. Like, I'm really enjoying the playthrough of it. I'm not great at it. Like, if you watch my last stream, you'll know I got lost in a few spaces and I died in a few places. But I'm getting better. I'm figuring out what I'm supposed to do. So we're working with it. But I love the story. So here it talks about another cataclysm had shaken the world, and that relates to the tsunami that had just come through. And I'm wondering what the connection is between the tsunami and the crater, because we haven't heard of what that is yet. But I'm wondering if, like, the inciting incident of the story, which is where the main plot of the story starts to happen, if it wasn't just one meteorite crashing into the earth, I assume this is Earth, it was several, like maybe a meteor shower, and maybe one had crashed into I have a bug. And one had crashed into the water as well, creating the tsunami. So we're discovering that as we go along, what the actual inciting incident of the story really is, and what all the repercussions of it were. Men here. That's an interesting word. All right, so I'm going to go on to chapter 2 in 1 minute, but there were some things that I'm pretty sure I had left off over here that I hadn't explored. So I want to just go make sure we have all the story from chapter 1 first. So there was a bramble up here that I had pierced through, and here's some more little things to clear out from the forest, get some upgrades for. And there is a box, there's a chest. I'm not sure why it's making me click the space bar each time. How am I supposed to get to that? I'm not entirely sure, but this is the forest that we were wandering around in chapter 1. Maybe I can't get to that right now because I don't see a way for that to happen. Let me just pop out the chat just in case. Okay. So as you can tell, it's a beautiful game. Okay, and my video card isn't liking it very much, but that's all right. We'll make through. We'll make do. See it through. All right, I think that's maybe all I hadn't done before. So I think we're good to move on to chapter 2 and see what comes next. Except now I forget where it was. Okay. That is a handy little, oh, bramble, hey.
Where were these horrors coming from?
I think from the meteorite crash, from the... Maybe there was more than one
The answer
meteorite.
she suspected would change everything.
Okay, so I took art history in class, and I love these columns. I believe they're Ionic columns from the Second Age of Greece, and they're just really pretty. They're the classic columns that we see, and I love that little nod to proper architecture in the game. And they also look like story paper. So I think that's kind of what they're doing here, is using the Ionic type of column to mimic a scroll of a story, and I think that's really beautiful. Here we go through a waterfall. Drowning halls.
Water was everywhere. It changed the landscape. Changed everything.
So I'm guessing this was part of the forest before, because in a story you don't really want to be told what has changed. You want to see it actually change, and we didn't really investigate this part of the land before. So I'm guessing this was still part of the forest, even though we're in some kind of ruins with the columns and everything. But in a traditional story, you want to set up what is going to change. So once we see that change happen, we're actually seeing it. We're not just being told what it is. Like, you want to see character development. You don't want to be told that a character is feeling sad. You want to see the change in sadness. Or if a landscape changes, you want to see what has changed from it. You don't just want to be told it. But I think that's a little hard in a video game because we're going into new parts, so there's a little bit of leeway for that here.
The hall denied her entry.
Just like the forest did.
She would not be denied entry.
No, I won't.
These halls of wisdom still stood firm. Though they had been racked by the wave's fury.
love these halls. I really would love to go and visit this. This is beautiful. Maybe not when the tsunami is here. Oh, I need to...
The looming walls and rising tide overwhelmed her.
This is another nod to, I wonder if this is actually talking about depression or anxiety or something, because you feel that very closed-in sort of sense and feeling to all of this, which is how people feel when they get depressed. And as we discussed before, depression and mental health issues of any kind are really linked to creative types, because creative types tend to feel things a little bit more acutely, they think, than the rest of the world, which is how they're able to express their emotions so beautifully and poignantly in art, in writing, in dance and music.
Water blocked her path.
Okay, that is a language I don't know yet, but I can get these guys down here. And if there's anything with... No.
Passage forbidden. Okay. That's great and all, but where am I supposed to go now? I see that water and all the ice flows, which are the little chunks of ice that are floating in the water, that's F-L-O-E-S for anyone who doesn't know, are blocking our path, but what do I do to get over there? Because I need to do something. So just a word about streaming. It's really stressful playing a video game on a stream, because when things like this happen and you don't know where to go, you're live, and you can't just say, oh no, I'm gonna figure this out later, or I'll go to a walkthrough if I really can't figure it out, but I'd like to not have to do that. Just adds another level of anxiety to live streaming. Yes, I see that water is blocking my path. I also see that it is a language I cannot read. Something has to be back somewhere that I'm missing. Maybe a power source to actually get into all of those languages. Because that's what happens when you unlock a power source. You're able to understand. That is water there, right? Like I can't walk on that. It's shimmery. It's a different color. Oh, I can't actually get over there. Yeah, I can. It looks like ice. And not actual water. I can't do this. I just can't.
Okay, so that was ice. We can get over here now. That's great. You know what I'm going to do? There are a few words here that I don't know that I actually really want to look up as we're going along. So if anyone else doesn't know them either, we can learn something new together. So give me a second while I look up Reknit. And I forget what the word was before that we had. Oh, Reknit. Oh, that is really cool, actually. So Reknit is... Oh, it's re-knit. Ha ha ha, it's not Reknit, it's re-knit. Okay. So re-knitting is knitting again, obviously. And I love that was, that's funny. They've had a few words that I haven't known, so I just figured it was a new word that I wasn't aware of. And it was, the word reknit was for the two spears going towards each other, so it's like a knitting pattern. So I think that's really clever. Reknit. I'm silly. And every time I leave the game, I need to click back in. And that's something I'm not doing. Okay. It looks like I can't actually get over there yet. Okay. So we'll go into the re-knitting patterns.